So over my little mini vacation over the past few days, I had some time to relax and kick back and watch some TV. I'm a documentary addict, so of course I watched a bunch of documentaries as well. And one of the documentaries I saw was on Mussolini. Now, I've seen many other documentaries about Mussolini in the past. This one I thought was particularly interesting. Mussolini, of course, was the fascist dictator, the leader of Italy. He got into power a little bit before Hitler, and then he was in power while Hitler was in power, and they were allies, and they were, of course, the Axis side of World War II. So they were our enemy during World War II. And the more you learn about Mussolini, the more I think you learn about the downsides of human nature. Because the way he acted, I mean, it's fascinating, and it tells you a lot about our psychology at a very base, innate, primitive level. So in the documentary I watched, there's a guy by the name of Professor Adrian Littleton from Johns Hopkins University, and he's an expert on Mussolini and on fascist Italy, and he said this, quote, Mussolini won great respect abroad and great popularity at home because he appeared as the peacemaker. Now, he's talking about when Mussolini and Hitler and Britain all got together, the leaders of Britain all got together, and they basically made a deal to appease Hitler because Hitler wanted certain territory in Czechoslovakia. So they gave him, I think it was the Sudetenland, which is part of Czechoslovakia, and they acted like, well, now we have peace because Hitler got the German-speaking territories in Czechoslovakia, the Sudetenland, and now, okay, everything's good. And what Mussolini did is Mussolini basically proposed that idea. I mean, it was Hitler's idea, but Mussolini proposed it as if it was his own. And it was, in the papers, it was discussed as if Mussolini proposed this plan, and then Britain agreed to it. So at the time, it looked like the world averted war because you appeased Hitler by giving him a little piece of land. Of course, it didn't work out because Hitler was a maniac, and he went on to go further into Czechoslovakia and try to take over all of Europe. But at the time, they thought, oh, we averted war. So they said it appeared like Mussolini was the peacemaker, and people were happy about that. His own people were cheering him for that. But as the professor explains, quote, but there is a very funny thing about this, that Mussolini himself wasn't at all pleased. He went home muttering, quote, all the crowds are cheering me as the man of peace, and I didn't want to be the man of peace. I wanted to be the man of war. Now, when I heard that in the documentary, I got fucking chills up my spine. And he goes on to explain, quote, Mussolini, I think, always saw Italy's inabilities to enter the war of September 19th, 1939 as a failure. So when Hitler was starting to take over places, something which he was embarrassed about and rather ashamed of. He is still, in international terms, a revolutionary. He is a man and a man with a mission. He has to leave his mark on history by making Italy a great or greater power. He can't do this without war. So, the best line which sparked this whole conversation and why I'm doing this whole segment now, quote, the most awful, I think, the most contemptible reason Mussolini gave for going to war, he said, we need a few thousand dead in order to be able to sit at the conference table. And he thinks that's the end of it. So, understand what he's saying. This is a leader of a country, not that long ago, saying, well, I don't want to be the man of peace. I want to be the man of war. The only way I can make my country, Italy, great again, because he saw himself as a modern-day Caesar, is to go to more war, and in order to be taken seriously in international terms by the major powers and the major empires, I gotta have a few thousand dead Italians. So let's go do all these different useless, needless wars. So, for example, he took over certain parts of Africa. He started going on a rampage. I think he went in Ethiopia. He took over Albania as well. He also was expansionist, started taking over all these different places because he's a fascist. And, of course, he wanted to take over more and more territory. And here's the whole point of discussing this and why this is so fascinating to me. You would think that a good leader, when they get power, what they care about is their people. They care about, hey man, I really care about my people. I really care about my country. So what I want is peace and prosperity. Peace and prosperity. But what you find across the board with many leaders is that absolute power, so in the case of fascist dictators, they do have absolute power. They control everything. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's the old quote, where once somebody gets a little taste of total power, everything goes haywire. Everything in their mind is out of whack, and they start to think these crazy ideas where they view human beings as pawns on a chessboard. And if you got to sacrifice some pawns to win the overall game, by all means. I don't care if a few thousand Italians die. In fact, I want a few thousand Italians to die for the glory of myself and the glory of Italy and to set up this new empire. My contention is the leaders all have it wrong. Hitler had it wrong. Mussolini had it wrong. Every imperialistic leader throughout history has it exactly wrong, because the people who are really remembered in history are the people who give us peace and prosperity, not the people who give us war. Now, to be clear, in fascist countries, sometimes they do have prosperity because they do public works and they invest in the country and they give people jobs. So they have the prosperity aspect to a certain extent in some authoritarian governments. But if you just abide by peace and prosperity, not war and prosperity, that's how you get remembered. That's how people love you. They don't love you if you send them to fight and die for no good fucking reason. And it's the insanity of getting total control that makes otherwise normal people lose it and make stupid decisions with the lives of their own people.